full screen it. That'll look professional. Okay. And we're going to get right back into it. Day 2 of the LJL Week 1 Summer Split. No matter how many times I may want to call it the Spring Split, Summer Split it is. Joining me once again, Reaper Meister is here to join us for the Day 2 matches. Coming up first, we have Sengoku versus Rascal Jester. Now, Rascal Jester actually had a pretty decent finish to the split last in spring. They had a rough start. They had a lot of games that just it felt like the things they were trying just were kind of getting beaten out a little bit. But one thing that I did look to kind of praise Rascal Jester for is they're a team that likes to all in a lot of early objectives. They play very well around just all inning. I believe like one of their first wins was where they made a great play around top side. They all in it, and if you don't respect that they're going to all in something, they'll take you for a ride. I remember they ended up taking both top lane turrets and leaving only the inhib turret up at nearly 14 minutes into the game. It was somewhere very, very early on. Sengoku, of course, was one of the finalists, so favorites coming into this, but Rascal Jester not to be slept on in this series.
Right. And in that line, it wouldn't surprise me to see them pick up just really potent dive threats to go in line with the strategy that you brought up.
Right, sort of the meta gives opportunity for that now, and it was sort of fueled by, the Drake objective meta coming up, the, moving around the map for Rift Heralds, things like that. Rascal Jester kind of fell in comfort with that. Now that the meta's a little bit more stabilized, I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to be playing out the summer split. There's still, like you said, plenty of dive threats. Wukong is going to be in contest. Graves, a great champion to kind of fall in line with their ability to exert pressure on specific points of the map. And Hachimecha, definitely the kind of jungler that wants to be in as many points of action as he can. So Graves, good champion to be picking up for that. While Sengoku looking up the Ezreal Yuumi to start things off.
That makes sense. Safe lane that'll be protected from most dives. The Graves doesn't surprise me. I definitely think if you want to have a very aggressive strategy, you need that aggressive jungler to go along with that. And the Karma is also flexible. We've already seen mid lane enchanters, and she's one that can be flexed even top lane. So just a lot of threats overall.
Yeah, a lot of good matchups there. It also kind of zones out, or at least it can go even very well with Ornn, and then if they do decide to all in on a fighting top laner, then you get your counter pick advantage if you want to look for that. It's kind of like decent flex opportunity. We've seen, I think Saros was the first one to play a mid lane, or the mid lane Karma in the seasons prior, but we had seen a number of them. As Blank is going to be going for the Lee Sin, a champion he's well and comfortable on at this point, as Rascal Jester are going in for Sivir on their R3 pickup. Now, Sivir's a champion we don't typically see a whole lot, but is definitely known for potent lane clear, that ultimate combined with the Karma Mantra E. Very mobile team comp, adds a lot of move speed and sort of acts as like a pseudo engage coming from your AD carry position.
Right, you want to talk about just running forward? The 3 champs Rascal Jester has taken so far, they pretty much just want to run in and fight if they can. They have decent disengage, but really what you want to be able to do is surround targets to get picks, or just collapse on a team fight.
Right, the Ezreal with the Arcane Shift, if you can just close that distance with a good speed boost, it's definitely a way to go about things. And also, decent lane as far as having the spell shield. You can keep getting mana back up, you negate a little bit of the poke in doing so, and then just allows you to keep Q spamming the wave, burn it through really quickly. A lot of lane control in being able to just, I'm gonna burn this wave, I'm gonna just send it back real quick. So you don't have to worry about being kind of stuck in this war of attrition with an Ezreal Yuumi bot.
Right, and if it is the Karma support, that's even more protection from poke. That's a faster push with Karma Qs.
Right, and as we see the Rumble going to be coming in here, most likely going to be the Rumble mid, locked in here for Pink, who, as we mentioned before, is one of the newer players coming in. Pink directly from the... I think Pink was the one who made it in from...
Scouting grounds.
Yes, from Scouting Grounds, and so his debut performance going to be on the Rumble mid, while Sengoku locking themselves in Aatrox and thinking of their last pick for Enti. Looking at a couple options here. Now, Nocturne is something that we don't typically see a lot of, but we had seen a couple times in the LJL prior, but this is going to be the Azir picked up for the mid lane.
Much safer. It's more in line with the strategy than something like a Nocturne mid, right? They have a lot of poke threats. They have things that want to do damage at range. I'm a little worried for the lack of like hard engage options they have. And Rascal Jester like shows what they could have had by taking the Ornn, whereas Sengoku took an Aatrox.
And as we say that, it's actually going to be the Hecarim, and Hecarim recently did pick up a couple of buffs on the most recent patch, and it is going to be the Hecarim top that is going to be Hecarim into Aatrox. And we actually were talking about this the other day, not too long ago. You mentioned how we were talking about when Aatrox was a little bit more mainstay meta. This was something that we'd seen a lot of going forward, and how do you feel about this matchup? Because I know we have talked a little bit about it off stream, but...
It's definitely Hecarim favored. It is a counter pick. It's Hecarim top is something that's gaining popularity right now just because of being able to collapse on fights and really have backline access, but it's a direct lane counter to Aatrox because he has the movement speed to dodge out of the the hit zones, and then stay in on the fight after he uses those Qs, which is what Aatrox really hates. He hates champions that can get on top of him and stay on top of him.
And that's definitely kind of the idea of what Rascal Jester seem to be drafting themselves into. There are 4 speed boosts on their 5. There's 4 speed boosts on their 5 champions. So definitely a lot of speedy options to get on top of and stay on top of Sengoku's comp.
Rascal absolutely wants to just run forward, but in the same line, Sengoku actually has a lot of champs that can kind of kite back very safely. They won't be in too much danger when they are extended. They have ways to get out.
Right, and Azir wall, one of those great defensive options for just, no, I'm putting this up, you can't get on me. Blank also, I feel, might have a bit of... I feel like the value of the Lee is definitely going to be coming in a lot of these skirmishes instead of the team fight opportunities, just because you can't really kick in a target when the rest of the team is just going to sprint past the Lee and, you know, go help their team, right? There's none of these characters can you really kick in and expect to completely blow open a fight. The gap close potential is very, very high.
I'd almost say the same thing about the Aatrox, because the Aatrox is not going to be able to find advantages in lane very easily. It's going to require some outplay. So being the skirmishes first and being able to get any damage you can before you get overtaken by this comp that really wants to just run at you is what you need to do as an Aatrox here.
Right. And I think also in that light, the lane aspect is going to be something that we're looking at here. Now, Rascal Jester typically haven't praised them as a very jungle-focused team. Not any knock to Hachimecha, of course, but just in general, Hachimecha isn't a hyper-aggressive jungler, except on the champions that directly warrant it, like Rek'Sai and things of that nature. So it's going to be kind of an interesting one to see them play it out. Now, on the sort of inverse of things, Blank definitely we've seen a lot of his Lee Sin games were into champions that he's allowed to be the aggressor on. If remembering Spring Split as best I can, it was into a decent amount of tank junglers or into champions that that don't want to directly interact with him a lot. So I'm curious to see how he's going to be able to play this one through. Blank, of course, is kind of well-known, a well-established player, definitely has, you know, the years of experience behind him to play up for this. It's just sort of a question of how does he play this one out, and how do we watch kind of Graves try to assert himself as the earlier jungler here versus Blank, who definitely is has the mechanics to make Lee Sin work, but how do you get to that level 6? How do you make sure you still have your summoners to make plays happen? And how do you avoid this kind of rumble Graves that can be moved around the map very easily? And Hecarim as well, like you were mentioning earlier, you know, coming down for roams, so much pressure can be emitted from their lanes.
And we've seen already how impactful these first few like levels 5 or 1 to 6, how impactful early jungle clear is, and how even just a slight snowball can go completely out of control with these carry junglers like the Graves, the Nidalee, even the Lee Sin.
Right, and going to be starting things up right away here. Now, as I'm looking across, fairly standard runes, nothing too out of the ordinary. I would expect to see from Cog. I would like to see whether we're going the Celerity route or the Nimbus Cloak, and can kind of, you know, play around both of those options to add a little extra speed to his combos. Now, the corrupting bot start is something I actually kind of like. Is that Hecarim, you know, you're used to being a jungle champ, you're used to having the talisman just to keep you up in the back as far as, you know, like clearing out your jungle. It helps restore a lot of your mana, so corrupting bot definitely going to be a good early option for him. And the other thing I noticed is Pyrion going in on the Comet here will add a bit to his clear, as Yatori Mayashi already being forced to burn Flash to avoid a bit of damage there.
That's interesting. That's a super defensive Flash for...
Right, possibly expected a few more people to be there. Did not have his Yuumi with him to keep him up on heals. Possibly thinking he just doesn't want to have to burn too many resources to stay healed, but Nagi already committed Q. He doesn't have to worry about the tether from the Karma rooting him up, so very defensive Flash early on, and we'll have to see how Hachimecha plays around that one.
We also did get the answer to your celerity question. The Hecarim actually went for inspiration secondary, so there is no extra speed boost you get. And he also doesn't have Ghost. He opts for Ignite for the lane matchups. Worth noting, this is pre-rework Ghost. This isn't the one that resets off kills.
Right, and I think Ignite is definitely not a bad call, because it does help in the lane specifically, but you're going to be dealing with a Yuumi for a large portion of this game, cutting out those heals as much as possible when you're really just trying to run down the comp. It's going to be a decent pickup, and should be able to get a decent amount of value here. Baits out the spell shield from Art actually fairly nicely. Expecting a Q to come out there as Lee Sin, full cleared on the red side, is immediately looking up towards his top side as Cog going to be forced to back away. Already all of his corrupting pots gone. He is getting looped on here. Will Cog be able to make it out in time? He will not. Kind of gets locked up a bit by Opperman, smartly using his flash there to just make the extra Q happen. Keeps him there long enough for Blank to rotate around, and first blood goes to the Lee.
I'm actually curious how he got to the point where he had to burn all his corrupting pots so fast, because when you take inspiration second and biscuits, the whole point is that you're unmovable from this lane. So he must be taking either really aggressive trades, or he's just eating Aatrox damage for free, which is the one thing Aatrox can do. He can poke for free.
Speaking of aggressive trades, it looks like Pyrion is also a little bit getting the better end of the HP trade, of course, having to sacrifice some mana to do that, but one health pot still available to him. And one thing I will note is that I love from Hachimecha is once he recognized that his bot lane had already burnt Flash, he immediately pivots his clear and full clears his red side. Graves getting there just a little bit too late, misses out on the spawns there, so has an idea of where he is, but now he's left in this position where he doesn't have a whole lot of good gank opportunities. Art is already taking advantage and getting the early shove with the Sivir's pushing power. But after Lee Sim full clears that side, there's not a whole lot of value left for Hachimecha on that side of the jungle. You can see here, he clears towards his blue side immediately, which he expects to be counter jungling on the bottom side. You know, flash burned, that's your strong side of the jungle. So he wants to try to play for that. Blank says he won't leave him anything left. You don't even need to leave vision there because you know there's no value for Graves once he's on that side of the map.
Right, at that point, you just need your bot lane to play safe, which they will already do for having a flash down and a Yumi lane.
Right. It's definitely kind of good coordinated team play from Sengoku, and immediately recognizing that he can shift the aggression towards the top side helps net them that first blood. The CS advantage, though, does speak for itself, in Art having about a 15 CS advantage, and only 5 minutes into this one.
And that makes sense. This isn't the type of lane a Yumi can really bully. There's no engaged support. This is an enchanter, and that's the trade-off, right? Is that it's much harder to CS when the cat is on your back, because that's one less person in lane to add pressure.
Right, and immediately now Blank, already to that level 5, comes and finds Hachimecha before he's able to get aggressive onto this bottom side here. And that's actually something that, you know, I like that Blank is paying attention to, is the second Yutori Mayeshi's wave is bounced and it's going back out away from him, he comes around, he just checks, he's making sure that he's looking for a deep ward onto Hachimecha to make sure he can't have any influence on that lane, and might have his own opportunity at the Drake. Hachimecha going to be pathing away from Drake here. After seeing Blank, if he comes for the crab contest, he might find Blank doing it, but his bot lane is staying for now and has teleport advantage, so they can't afford to take this longer time.
This is just smart control from Sengoku. They know that the bot lane needs to back. They know that their Azir will have push pressure.
Right, and the options left for them. Wave does get under turret on the side of Rascal Jester, but now with a BF sword, this is where the lane clear starts to really stack up. The Q will just start burning through waves. You can use Sivir W that will proc lethal tempo, and then attack speed burst will just help you clear the waves that much faster. Cog looking for an opportunity onto Opperman here. The R misses out on the Fear CC. Opperman can just kite away. He has no flash, so he will be going down here. Hachimecha going to be the one picking up that kill. Investing on the early boots comes in handy for Cog, and not a whole lot you can do there if you are Opperman, just kind of dogged down. This is exactly what Rascal Jester's comp is supposed to do.
Your solution is kind of don't be there, but as a top laner, you need to secure the CS when you can. But when you have a Hecarim that can engage from so far away, you don't even need to land the abilities. The Graves comes in and has plenty of damage to clean it up.
Right, and the one thing that does kind of stand out to me, and I sort of tilt my head up, so maybe you can offer a little bit of info on this one, is the Cull pickup by the Aatrox. It's sort of leaning into the matchup, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It is interesting because, like, he knows as the matchup goes, it gets harder and harder to win. It's a losing matchup as it scales. But the fact that he was winning early means that he doesn't want to just take the lead he's gotten and run with it. He wants to, like, okay, I've gotten a lead. I still want to maximize a losing lane, like what should be a losing lane.
Right, and Rascal Jester, Pink, is going to be going down there. A clean shuffle there from Pyrion.
Just perfectly played.
Yeah, no flash on Pink, or flash down on Pink, even though it's going to be enough to knock down Pyrion there. Does get Blank's flash, so jungle flash for mid flash, but unfortunately for Pink, that means Pyrion will have a decent amount of time to repeat performance that mid lane play. And this is where things start to get a little dicey for Rascal Jester. This is sort of expected to be the time where Hachimecha is supposed to have more priority in the jungle. But as it stands right now, Blank has been in the right place at the right time a couple of times in a row. Final chapter not going to be finding any targets on that one. And look at the vision control from Sengoku on this top side, where you recognize where the weaker parts of your map are, and immediately Opperman is going to be taking advantage of that, trying to fight it out with Cogcog, who ultimate saves. He does have pretty free escape, just running full away from that one. Opperman not going to be able to keep him entertained in that lane for very long.
That trade pretty much confirms what's happening top lane. The whole point of taking Hecarim is that you can avoid trades like that. You can avoid the poke trades that Aatrox wants before he can set up his all-ins. And if you're just eating it, you just die.
Right, and holding on to his ultimate, Ignite coming back up, and Opperman having his ulti down, it's immediately back to that point where he's going to need to respect Cogcog in that moment, and sneaking away with a back here. Rascal Jester taking a reset. Drake up in about 1 minute, so recognizing possibly that they're not going to be able to get a full item out, but Blank is going to be spawning up the Rift Herald here, as Pink seems to have lost quite a bit of priority here. There's only 3 turret plates left to speak of. Ultimate goes down, but Blank and Pyrion will dash their way to safety, as now this mid turret is very low at only 10 minutes in.
The lead in the mid lane has become absurd at this point.
Right, 30 CS lead to Pyrion's name. He has the blue buff advantage, which Pink is not able to take advantage of, stealing a blue away from his jungler. So Pyrion just gets that much more pushing power. He already has an assist to his name and has that lost chapter, so he can kind of go toe-to-toe with the pushing power of Rumble to kind of lock him into this lane. Meanwhile, on the top side, Cogcog looking to start things off. Opperman, good flash to avoid the fear on the ulti. Hachimecha looking for an opportunity here, trying to avoid the vision from Opperman. Plays it out very well, but Opperman ulti speed boost to try and get away from that one. Hachimecha has ulti, should just be able to burn him down here. Trying to hold the ultimate, ends up getting sidestepped. Hachimecha had opportunity to barrel stuff the ultimate, but holds onto it too long. And Opperman, with some fancy footwork, is not only going to dodge out on the gank, it'll mean he saves his own life and make sure that Sengoku have a free opportunity at this Infernal Drake.
It was just so well played from Opperman. Turning back for his empowered auto to heal him just enough that the only way he would die was from the ultimate and able to sidestep it.
It's definitely some sly movements from Opperman there, and much needed plays as Pyrion is now already taken the mid lane turret. A good gold spike over to him. As it stands right now, Rascal Jester are running out of options and running out of them fast.
Right, like, you have a team comp that all they want to do is run forward. How do you run forward into an Azir that's already at an item and a half and only getting stronger as time goes on?
Right, we always talk about that Azir scaling, how he turns into one of those team fight monsters. It's going to be harder and harder to deny him, especially with the kind of a little bit of decay that Pink kind of has. And that's sort of something that I look at as a little odd in this kind of a comp is, you have this very brawly comp, and it almost feels counter synergy with the Rumble and sort of the rest of his team. But specifically, I look at the Hecarim. A lot of displacement effects, both his ult and his E are really good at displacing members of Sengoku, while the Rumble ulti really wants you to be in one spot. So the options kind of presented here, but thought might be held as Pyrion looking to help his jungler out onto this topside jungle, clearing away the vision, and Blank will be able to steal that one away. Is a level down, but the value he's been getting across the map is more than enough to make up for it, as Hachimecha looking around, seeing if he can find Blank, not doing it in any safety. Has an opportunity on Hachimecha here, lands the Q, kick is good, Sonic Wave in, and immediately dashes out onto Oppa, and just takes the good chunk, make sure that he can't show up on this side of the map anymore. Hachimecha, a little bit desperate for farm, is going for something here. Pyrion thinking about going over the wall for a play, but not going to be able to Shurima shuffle him out of that one. Blank will just take his time with those Krugs.
Sengoku is just asserting all their power right now, completely taking over the enemy jungle. Like, what do you do if you're the Graves there? You have to respect that you can be collapsed on at any moment. You already had to face check an Elise in and lose 75% of your health. You don't have the choice to stay.
Right, and there's just so much vision control. Cog going for a play is just immediately punished by Blank, who has been enjoying as much time as he likes on this red side jungle. Blank looking for an opportunity. Has Flash if he really wants to commit it. He does. Sonic Wave is good. Now he's back in the face of Hachamecha, but Opperman is here. It's a hard 2v1 for a Graves, but he does have the turret to hold on to. We'll see if these guys are going to go for it. Pyrian is now here. Hachamecha might be stranded under turret. The Q will only clear out so much wave, but Pyrian misses on the ultimate. The Sonic Wave will get him back out onto him and under turret, but nothing you can do if you're Hachamecha there. Only one smokescreen and dash to his name. Not a whole lot of escape options there. Burns his flash in just an attempt. But this is looking like a curtains game for the side of Rascal Jester, as they will be able to nab up a turret, as Sivir will grab a bit of gold in doing that, helping her get towards those items that'll help lane clear at least, but Blank has had full objective control in this early game.
The trades are just not even close. What is the Hecarim going to do? Hecarim wants a long, extended 1v1 with the Aatrox. No one's going to give you that when you can't even have your own jungler stand in your jungle.
Right, and just the amount of vision that was dedicated there already, you can see is slowly being dwindled as this Cloud Drake spawns up. Cloud Soul, not one of the more contested souls in pro play, but when you're looking at just keeping the speed boost away from Rascal Jester, but also cycling towards those later game objectives is really what you want to be doing. No sense as Hachamecha, an unfortunate interlude with the Grump there, but
we've all been there.
Like I was saying is, Sengoku, you don't want to give anything at this point. Why? You're not losing any waves to go for this objective. You're losing out on maybe about 100 gold in minions if you just keep objectives out of the hands of Rascal Jester. But also just keeping... Go ahead.
Sengoku only gets stronger from here too. They have the scaling comp, and being so far ahead, you don't want to force something that just puts more power into the hands of Rascal Jester.
Right, 300 CS Sivir may be a win con, but if that's the only scaling end of this you have, Blank is definitely more than willing to try and get a kick opportunity off. And while you do have the spell shield on Art, it's a very difficult one to try and read out because it can easily be eaten by a Lee Sin E if he slams before it and can sort of mind games that one out if Art is left without that opportunity.
And Art is just so far from that 300 mark. He's so far from being relevant. Item and a half, probably the most fed member on their team, but they're just not ready to dive anyone on Sengoku.
Right, and it looks like Rascal Jester are wanting to put that to the test. They don't want to hand over Soul Point to Sengoku. Gonna be looking for a steal opportunity. Pink on a good flank here for an ultimate, putting the pressure on with that teleport. Kokog's coming in, but Blank will get that one and secure that. Has an opportunity to go over the wall here, but it looks like they're taking the fight after all. Pyrian getting a ton of damage. Nagi is going to be forced to run away. Mantra E committed, but Opperman flashes forward. He's going to get one. He's going to get two, as now Blank is here to help out. 3 on Opperman and Blank, picking up 1 to steal the quad, as Sengoku are just wiping this fight.
You use all your tools to run forward. What are you going to do when nothing works? You have to just walk back?
Right.
Sengoku has all their tools. They're going to run straight at you back.
The Karma Mantra E is not enough. A great flank from Opperman there. As Rascal Jester looks for anything here, and it sort of feels a little split. Kokog makes the call to go onto Blank, while the rest of the team is getting locked up by the Azir here. And this is sort of something that I've talked about before in the LJL, is a lot of teams will draft into a comp that works, or a comp with a set game plan. And I do enjoy that about the LJL, is that they're willing to all in on a game plan. They know certain ideas they want to do. You can see the idea behind Rascal Jester's comp. You can see what they were going for. But a lot of times, and I feel like this is something that drafts will kind of develop over time, is Rascal Jester or LJL teams sometimes struggle a little bit with figuring out what you need to be banning to make your comp work. You realistically cannot be passing over an Azir, one of the better defensive options of mid laners. When you're trying to have a comp that is very aggressive like this, you want to ban away counters. Now, I don't recall all of the bans that were thrown up, but it's still it's that same kind of idea of there's some things you ban because you don't want to play into it, and there's some things you ban because your team can't play into it. And Azir feels like one of those options in this game.
Right, and we need to remember that the Ezreal Yumi were the first 2 picks of Sengoku's draft. So they opted into their draft, this team comp, knowing that they would already have tools that would be hard to dive. And Sengoku just had to play further into denying their plan.
Right, and it's sort of that why set the stage to be as hard for you as you can? You know, you have plenty of room to play this into a much better matchup, has that options available to you, and when you look at a game like this, it really speaks for itself as Baron is spawned up here. Opperman has kind of been found out here looking for a Gromp opportunity. Cogcog will get this sort of pseudo Hecarim insect, but Opperman's going to fight this one out. A decent amount of healing on there, but not going to be able to get away from that one there. Hachimecha handing that kill over to his to his top laner, but in the wake of that, Sengoku right onto the Baron.
Push and pull, you go for the bot lane play, you open up objectives on the other side of the map.
Right, Hachimecha showing there will mean Baron goes down here. Ultimate committed as Blank waits a dangerous amount on that smite, waiting to just make sure it got it 100%. He actually got a little unlucky there. Smite was about 640 to 680, and in that moment, it went from 780 to 180, and in that brief interlude, that's definitely could have been disastrous. But Blank smartly holds his smite for when he knows it'll kill for sure.
Is definitely where tragedies happen. Luckily for Sengoku, they are not Dignitas.
That they are, and Blank is definitely one of those junglers that's been around the block a number of times to have that steely resolve to really just play that one through.
Right, and I have to agree with AI here. It's looking pretty bad for Rascal Jester as the game just keeps moving forward.
Yeah, our computer overlords will tell us, this is one that was sort of sealed from the start as Sengoku has Baron opportunity now, looking for a play onto Nagi. Kick is good. Does he even need Yutore Mayashi there? Just going to be able to find a quick opportunity. Blank kind of asserting himself as, hey, I can still do the fancy Lee Sin stuff. I still have my insects. I still have opportunities here.
I couldn't pull it off any better in a bot game.
Finds him out, lands the insect, and this is almost all she wrote as they are looking to just knock down the last few turrets. Azir just solo pushing lanes in the mid lane. Ezreal going to help him out there. They don't even need the 1-3-1. Spirian looking at the inhib turret here. Has an Azir turret to stand behind, so is a great option for kind of setting up split opportunities.
Your only real danger is splitting too much, right? So that's why they're not opting for the 1-3-1. Rascal Jester still has a lot of tools to just run forward, and if you're alone, if you're Opperman or anyone else just caught off alone, they can easily dog you down. But Sengoku's just never going to give you the opportunity.
Right, and this is just Sengoku kind of playing both ends of the ballpark here. Rascal Jester still looking for an angle to try and make something happen. And this is something that I remember talking about at the end of the spring split, is that Sengoku as a team is very, very, very good at knowing where they need to be with the advantages that they have. They know they need to be mid lane. Dragon's up, sure, but why not burn down the last 20 seconds of Baron securing Soul when you know that if Rascal Jester were to leave for a second, that would be all she wrote for the base. And Pyrian, speaking of knowing where he is, he might be found out here as Art is going to be the one engaged on as Hachimecha comes around here. No E to speak of, but Pyrian will just need to get the damage out. Has to flash out of the smoke screen, but the wall is good. Pyrian looking for the last stand here. He will get the cavalry coming in as Opperman comes in. The ultimate goes down to try and burn down Pink. Flashes forward. Opperman will be able to find two there as now Nagi's going to be the next one going down. Yutori picking up that one. Now Pink under turret goes golden, but Opperman can land just one Q. Still tanking the turret up. Yutori a great arcane shift to get out of that one. Landing spells from over the wall. Opperman can kind of duel this one out as Yumi coming in just to heal him back up as Blank looking for an opportunity just to burn this turret down. Can't tank too much. Still is a squishy Lee Sin, but this is GG for Rascal Jester.
That was nearly a 2v5 after Pyrian goes down, and they just have nothing left. Run them over with just the Aatrox and the Ezreal.
Sort of inverts this game on its head. What was the comp that wants to run over ends up getting steamrolled in this game, and one more wall for good measure finds 3, and just padding KDA stats, Sengoku takes their first win.
Absolutely absurd damage for 25 minutes, but getting that lead will do that.
Yeah, that's not one that feels good for Rascal Jester. I will, as I always say, I love the innovation. I love looking for those opportunities. Unfortunately, doesn't quite pay off for Rascal Jester in this one. Just the defensive tools played to the best of their abilities.
It could just be early split nerves. This is week 1. You're very much want to get on comfort or a comp maybe that you've been practicing, and maybe you're not thinking in your head about what potentially shuts down our comp and how do we stop that in draft.
Right, and experimentation is a great way, or is a great look at the early parts of this split, you know. Well, like I said before in the spring split, Rascal Jester kind of had a rough start, and a lot of times it comes down to them trying new things, working on new angles, and if this is something that, you know, Rascal Jester wants to work on, practice a bit in the scrims, you figure out some counters that make this matchup hard, come back, figure out what you need to adjust. Maybe we'll end up seeing it later on down the line. But for now, we are going to be taking a quick break before we get back for DFM versus Sengoku. And this is the one that I know I'm very excited